there's one thing that's a genuine ball ache in this hobby, it's the frustration and complexity of trying to sim race in VR. The tuning, the settings, the OpenXR, and a graphics card that can sometimes cost more than the average family car, and they ain't getting any cheaper. But there's one way to do it that's basically switch on and race. The experience to cost ratio is borderline mind-blowing. And I'm talking about the PS VR 2, a PlayStation 5 and Gran Turismo 7. Now in the last video I made the case for high-end PC VR. The Pimax, the clarity, the whole GPU tax, we went through everything. This is the exact opposite. This is the other way. And the question I want to answer is simple. Why does a 4-year-old game and a budget headset still compete today? And why can I still not get enough of GT7 when there's all these other amazing sim racing titles around? Now let me get the bad news out of the way first, because we can't pretend the PS VR 2 isn't dog shit in a few areas. The resolution is soft. In terms of PPD, the PS VR 2 sits right at the bottom at around 18. Distant objects and braking boards can be harder to pick out. There's some reprojection issues that can make fast-moving stuff warp or smear a little bit. The sweet spot on the lenses is also very small, and I'll share a bit of a fix for that later in the video. But two things that combat that. One, you get used to it surprisingly fast. And I swap back and forth between the Pimax headsets, MetaQuest and the PS VR 2 regularly. And the second thing, if this is your first VR headset, you won't even know what you're missing. You've got nothing to compare it to. I put my dad in the PS VR 2 a few months ago and it blew his mind. Tell me who the first person you ever put in VR and what did they say? Tell me in the comments. So yes, you're giving a few things up here, and these are big things. Now let me tell you what you actually get back, because it's not obvious and some of it's certainly not on a spec sheet. Firstly, the PS VR 2 screen is OLED, and that one fact changes how the whole thing feels. Deep, proper blacks in real HDR. I get the sun coming up over the horizon and I swear I can feel it on my face. That should actually be a metric, because some headsets have it and some just don't. The PS VR 2 has it. Racing at night, racing into the low sun, this cheap headset genuinely outpunches my $900 Pimax on contrast and black levels. And that's not something I expected to be saying, and it's the one area where the PS VR 2 option actually wins on pure contrast and colour. If you own a PS VR 2, back me up in the comments, or if you disagree, let me know too. Now, the second thing, and this is the whole point of the video, and it's a big one, simplicity. I can be racing in GT7 in about 2 minutes. No drivers, no OpenXR, no config files, no tinkering. And when I'm done, I just take the headset off and I'm back on to a monitor. It's absolutely seamless. I've done the PC thing for years, and some days I just don't want to be my own IT department just to go for a drive. I want to sit down and race with no fuss. PS VR 2 and Gran Turismo 7 lets me do exactly this. Even the wheel is plug and play. I'm running the Logitech RS50. It's a proper direct drive wheel. You plug it into the PS5 and it just works. No software to wrestle, and a genuinely great feel straight out of the box. And that's the whole ecosystem in one example. Everything just works together because it's all one system. You can see me here sitting in my cockpit, which is a next level racing FGT Elite, but any sturdy cockpit is enough. You just want all the feedback from your wheel reaching your hands and not getting lost in a wobbly frame and finding its way into the floor. Other little things stack up too. The headset's designed so that you can plug in your own over-ear headphones, and sound is a massive part of immersion. If you're going to the trouble of putting a full headset on for visuals, audio is almost as important. I'm using the PlayStation version of the Black Shark V2s, and like everything on this setup, it's plug and play. Nothing on this rig ever misses a beat. And that tiny sweet spot I mentioned earlier, about $50 kind of fixes it. There's a comfort mod called Globular Cluster. It clips on, no tools, and the top strap locks the headset in place, so you actually stay in the sweet spot of the lenses. It's the first thing I'd buy alongside the headset. To be clear, it doesn't make the sweet spot bigger, but it just makes the sweet spot easier to find and stay put. Now, people love to tell you that GT7 isn't a real sim, it's a simcade, and they like to look down on it, but that completely misses the point. What it gives up in hardcore realism, it hands straight back in fun and simplicity. It's friction at all levels removed. Now, I know that word simcade can start a bit of a fight. If you think it's a simcade and has no business being mentioned next to iRacing, tell me why in the comments. Now, take the daily races on GT7. You qualify once and that's it. You're set for the week. No warm-up laps, no lobby hunting, straight into racing. And the simplified daily races throws you into cars you'd never normally pick, which is actually pretty refreshing. And here's another one nobody talks about: navigating menus inside VR with a controller. On PC, that can be a real pain in the arse. On PS5, you just pick up the control pad and navigate that way. So it's much easier and way less frustrating. And it's not just that, it's gorgeous. Polyphony do world scale better than anyone. Some of these tracks and environments are genuinely breathtaking in VR. Now, I'm keen to know if other people have noticed it. There's just a much better sense of scale and elevation in Gran Turismo with PSVR 2. Now, I run iRacing, Le Mans Ultimate, Race Room, AMS2 and Assetto Corsa, and I still come back to GT7. Now, that's a completely different video on about why I still can't leave GT7, even though I'd consider myself a bit of a sim racer, but we'll leave that video for another day. But now let's talk money, because this is where it really lands. Unfortunately, the PS5 Pro isn't cheap anymore. Well, it never really was, but Sony pushed it up to around $900 this year. And that's driven by the same silicon shortage that's making graphic cards a nightmare. So this isn't dirt cheap, but let's add it up. PS5 Pro, a PSVR 2, the Logitech RS50, wheel and pedals, GT7, and let's throw in an extra $500 for a rig. And you're roughly looking at $2,700 all in for a complete VR sim racing setup. Now, I'd only recommend the PlayStation 5 Pro for PSVR 2 and not the base PS5. It does make a real difference to the VR experience in GT7. So that's the full PlayStation VR setup. Now let's compare that to the PC path from the last video. A Pimax plus a machine capable of driving it plus a wheel, and you are absolutely sailing past $5 or $6 grand, or most likely more. Now, you could cheap out on the headset and go for something like a Meta Quest 3 with a much lesser of a graphics card, but even then, you're still way over that $3,000 to $4,000 mark. So we can see the PlayStation setup is miles cheaper, but there's two other things that make the console side win here. If you already own a PS5 Pro, and a lot of you watching this will, then your entire VR entry is basically just the headset, the wheel, the pedals and the rig. And even from scratch, it's a one-time cost. There's no upgrade treadmill, no chasing the next GPU every 18 months just to hold your frame rate. You buy it and that's it. And the other thing is, you don't even need a screen or a monitor. You just have the PSVR 2 connected to your PS5 and that's it. So is it the sharpest? No, but it is the easiest, fastest, most frictionless and fun way into VR sim racing for a fraction of the cost and none of the headache of full PC VR. With those terms, nothing comes close. You just sit down, switch it on and race. So console or PC, which path did you take into VR sim racing? And would you ever switch? Let me know in the comments.